That's resources and development. I know I have a set of questions that we're going to discuss. So before I get started, see, it's very easy. Before I jump onto this question, it's very basic and important for you guys to understand. If I have 1 mark question, please make sure you follow the word limit. That's 15 to 30 words, and respect this word limit. It's like, don't jump into shortcuts. Your teacher is gonna hate that. It's like, if they ask what are the sources from where you can get money from, formal, informal, you just write down formal and informal. You don't pay heed or pay respect to that. Why? Just because it's a 1 mark question? Come on guys, it's anyway going to fetch you marks. Everybody is going to write just formal and informal. Why can't we put in a little bit effort in it? Try to frame and present it the proper way it should go. Second, if you have a 3 mark question, I expect you to write at least 80 words and stick to the word limit. Third, if you have a 5 mark question, the suggested word limit for this is going to be 100 to 120 words. So, as I was talking, the very first question is, prefer to write your answer in bullets. It's going to help you score well. So let's get started. Analyze the involvement of different traditional communities to conserve their own natural habitats. So what I have done, I have underlined the word what they're expecting me to do. That's I have to analyze, and they're talking about traditional. Sometimes we do not read the question properly and we supply the information that we guys probably know related to the topic. That's not going to help you score well. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to show you the answer, what we are going to write about. First, we have to talk about conservation. You have to give an introduction. Just don't directly jump onto the answer. So in first 2 to 3 questions, I'll be explaining you what strategy you guys are supposed to follow when you have to place your answer in bullet points. So in this case, for example, conservation strategies are not new to India. This is not new to India. That means we've been following it for quite some time. Now they've been asking what are these strategies followed by the traditional communities. That means they're going to talk about the local communities. So talking about the local communities, giving their reference, start with point number 1. For example, in Rajasthan, the Sariska Tiger Reserve, they've spoken against and fought against the mining practices. So they've protected tried to protect their habitats and declared that region of forest that's going to go under their own conservation, and they've also named it. So you've supplied 3 set of information in this question. The very first set of information in this is the Tiger Reserve, Sariska Tiger Reserve that you're talking, and I expect you to underline. See, there are 2 strategies when you follow a question. Either you underline the important points if you're writing in a paragraph. If it's not a long answer and you're supposed to write your answer in a paragraph, kindly underline the points. So very first point here is Sariska Tiger Reserve. Second is talking about mining activities in this case. Second point is, if you are writing in pointers, it's going to be villagers of Alwar district of Rajasthan. Again, they have declared some area of their domain to be declared as a protected area. So for this, I am going to underline district of Rajasthan. They have declared 12,000 area as 1200 hectares as Bhairodev Sanctuary. It's not sanctuary, of course you have to write the correct spelling. So when I talk about all these conservation measures and all these steps, please make sure that you underline the important points and give a conclusion that we've not achieved the desired goal, but still working for it. In this way, what I have given is, I've given a good introduction, I've given the point in bullets, or maybe if you want to underline the points, make sure you do that. Third, I have concluded in a statement. If it's a 3-mark question and you're not providing 3 points. For example, I have done in this case, the very first point is Sariska, the second one is going to be Alwar, and third one is going to be about Chipko movement. So had it been a 3-mark question, I would have been allotted 3 marks for the same. So as I told you, the word limit is going to be 80 marks. So either bullets or in a paragraph, but if you're writing in a paragraph and it's not a long answer, make sure you underline the important points so that it is visible to the teacher. Okay, second important question that we're going to talk about is, again, how have human activities affected the depletion of flora and fauna, and you have to explain it. So the question asks you, or expects, what is the question expecting out of you is to probably explain. They're not asking you to analyze, they're asking you to address and explain the situation. In this case, for example, when I talk about this question, how have human activities affected the depletion of flora and fauna, and you have to explain. So I have to start my answer by giving an introduction. I am not in a haste, and I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to show it to my teacher that we are in a haste to answer it. So following are the human activities that have caused the depletion of flora, or you can write the depletion of wildlife and plant, vegetation, etc. for that matter. Now, if it is a 3-mark question, the second way, instead of writing in a paragraph form, the second pattern that you guys can probably follow is either mention your points in bullets, or you can give a good introduction to those pointers that most of us don't give. For example, let's talk about this case. I have a point, agricultural expansion and practices like shifting cultivation for meeting the needs of growing population. Now imagine the scenario, like everybody knows this very basic answer. It's about, you're going to talk about agriculture, you're going to talk about large scale development projects, you're going to talk about habitat destruction because of all that poaching and overexploitation. But imagine just, one of you, what effort you're going to make is, out of the 100 sheets that the teacher is going to receive, one of you what is doing a very smart move. You're going to write the same points, but anyway you're going to mention something different. And what different am I talking about? For example, first point, due to agriculture, and then you're going to start with your point. The second point is because of large scale development, and then probably you can start with your own point. And third is about habitat destruction and overexploitation, and then you can give out your own point. See, the only difference is all of you are going to write these points anyway, but the only difference that's going to make anything that's going to make a lot of difference is the way you're going to present. We dress up in a particular manner to show that we are different from others, and similarly your answer should also speak a lot about your personality. I hope I'm clear with this. So in this case, what you've done is agricultural exploitation and you've given a point. Small scale development or large scale development, you've given your point, you've put it across, so that your teacher probably knows that you're very clear up in your head and you don't have to struggle a lot while answering questions like that. So you've explained all the 3 points in this context. Okay, so let's jump on to the third question. Suggest. Now here you go, here is a catch. So they've asked you to suggest any 6 measures to solve. See, when you are answering or reading a question, I expect you to keep a pen in your hand and underline what they're looking for. So you have to suggest 6 measures to solve the problem of land degradation. You have to solve the issue related to land degradation, that too in India. So most of us would probably be starting our answer, okay, land degradation, let's suggest and let's get away with the answer, let's do it. Guys, I don't think that's going to help you score well. Now we are aiming to score well and work on practices that's going to improve your score anyway, right? And we have to follow those basic things. Imagine somebody, like any one of you, has probably put across all the 6 points that you are aware. For example, something related to afforestation, planting of shelter belts, proper management of wastelands, mining activities you have to keep a check, and also to ensure that the industrial effluents do not actually bother the ecosystem, and you have to adopt or stick to measures that have effective plowing techniques. So all the 6 points are pretty clear to you. Now imagine somebody like one of you has started the answer with a very good introduction. For example, what is land degradation? Right, you've started with the definition of land degradation is the misuse or over exploitation of land that has led to depletion of the basic resources that we could have used or channelized the proper way. And then after giving that definition for land degradation, you've probably underlined that point, and then you kickstart with these 6 basic points. And I've seen question papers or answer sheets coming my way. 6 points, it's been clearly mentioned that you have to write 6 points, but I've seen people writing in the form of a paragraph. So what is the use of the examiner asking you to suggest 6 measures? It's of no purpose, right? So when they are asking you to give in points, please ensure that you respect the question what they are asking for. All right, so here you go, and once you're done with this, you're not going to stop here, you're going to conclude it. The government is coming up with a lot of acts, and a lot of practices have been taken by the local people also, local communities also, to work on the path of protecting and conserving the land. I hope that is clear to all of you. So we've discussed 3 most important things. First point is read the question carefully. Just read it as many times as you guys can. So it's this is a very activity like teachers have been teaching for long, students have been learning for long, but the only basic difference is now you have to get creative. In social studies, it's not about writing anything and getting marks. It's not going to help you anyway. It's about writing the accurate answers. So that's what we are going to learn here. So let's jump on to the next question. Now, here you go. The question is, mention 3 clearly mentioned. So they've clearly mentioned it. You've mentioned 3 physical factors, as well as, in addition to this, 3 human factors which determine the use of land use in India. Now, what the answer is going to come up, I know. So everybody is going to take their sheet. So you're going to start writing, okay, this point related to physical factors, then you're going to add 1 point related to human factors that has led to, the land use pattern has changed related to human factors. Then you're going to again kickstart writing about the physical factors and again jump on to human factors. So imagine somebody narrating you the story of Jack and Jill and just telling you the conclusion first and then going back. Would you really appreciate something of that sort? I don't think you're going to appreciate. Nobody wants to hear the conclusion or maybe the ending of a movie. Nobody would like that. You want to keep the suspense going on, right? So in this case, I know what is coming your way. So in this case, you're going to tell, okay, India has an estimated land of this area, and in order to answer this question, you have to follow a specific pattern. What is going to be the pattern? First, you're going to give a good introduction. Then you're going to highlight, okay, now I'm going to talk about 3 physical factors that have actually determined the land use pattern in India. And you're going to write all those 3 points in bullet points. Then you're going to leave a line and again mention that yes, this is what you guys have asked for. And now I'm going to talk about 3 human factors that determine the use of land use in India. So let's talk about this. This is what I was talking about. So 3 physical factors determining the land use in India. We've written all the 3 physical factors. Then I separated it so that I have to, because I wanted to ensure that my teacher comes across and finds out that I have differentiated or made a difference. So now you're going to talk about 3 human factors, that's population, diversity, technological capability, culture and tradition. And then no, you're not going to stop here, right? So now you're going to conclude that both physical as well as human factors play a very important role in determining the land use in India, right? Okay, so let's get started with the other question. Now they have made a statement. It's indiscriminate use of resources has led to numerous problems. Okay, so you have to look for the word that they are asking for. So in this case, they are asking you to justify the statement. Okay, so let's start how we're going to justify and look at this statement. The indiscriminate use of resources has led to problems like ecological crisis, global warming, ozone depletion, and land degradation. Okay, so you guys know this. Now, how I'm going to place this point in the form of a very interesting bullet point. What I'm going to talk about in this is, I'm going to say the environmental consequences. So the very first point in which I'm going to talk about, the global warming, the issues related to ozone, the issues related to land degradation. So I'm going to talk about environment. Second point is the distribution of wealth. Right? So the second point that I'm going to talk in this case is not just, I'm not going to come up with this, the accumulation of resources in few hands divides the society between the rich and the poor, or maybe haves and the have not, but I have to give my teacher a very clear idea that now what you're looking or what you can expect in this point is the divide between the monetary divide between the haves and have not in this case. Third is it's the greed. Now in this question, I am not going to end it right here, that the fast depletion of resources to satisfy the greed of few people. Please don't stop here. There's a very, very important statement made by Gandhiji in your book that there's enough for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. So you have to make sure that your teacher reads that quote. So in order to ensure that, you just write Gandhiji's statement and put it in inverted commas and underline Gandhiji so that she talks about the greed. She comes to know that you're going to talk about how greedy the people are. So this, of course, is the right pattern. Everybody is going to write it this way. The answers are written in this way. But what special you guys are going to get while watching this video is you're going to get a fair idea of what additional you can do so that, or you can add on so that you can fetch more marks to what people are generally doing. Okay, so let's get on to the next question. Distinguish between national and international resources. Clearly mentioned, you have to give 3 points for each. Now, a question like that, like this, can probably be attempted by you guys in, let's say, 2 different formats. So I'm going to follow the first format in which you have this and you talk about, first you give the definition of resources. That's going to be your introduction. Please define your resources. So in case you are writing a very long answer, please prefer to give additional surprise to your teacher by adding some flowchart, by giving some block diagrams, so that it becomes clear to her that this guy has invested, this child has invested or put in an extra effort, right? So in long questions, please try to answer or address the question by putting in a block diagram or maybe a flowchart. That's going to make your answer sheet look all the more impressive. It's going to impress your teacher a lot. So in this case, let's say you have to distinguish. The very first way in which you're going to talk or answer this question is, first you're going to define what you understand by resource. Right? Here you give the definition of resource. After giving the definition of resource, either you talk about national resources and you write points. Again, you're going to leave a space and talk about the international resources and again give pointers. So this is how you're going to answer it the very first way. It's like the first option which you guys can go on. And the second way you guys can resolve this is by putting these points across the teacher in the format, in this format. So you're going to differentiate it because they asked you to distinguish. They've clearly mentioned, right? So you're going to distinguish between them. You're going to put this heading. We're going to talk about natural resources. Here we're going to talk about international resources, and then relevant point with good examples are going to be mentioned right here. So let's see what is the answer is going to be all about. So in this case, 3 points you have to give. So the very first one is I'm going to talk about national resources. So when I'm talking about the national resources, that's I'm talking about the domain, the territory of India, the resources that come there. In this case, you have to explain to your teacher it's the resources that belong to the country, belonging to the people of a nation. That means they all are known as your national resources. So it's not belonging to one community or a set of people, but it belongs to the entire audience, so the nation's people. So in this case, for example, you have your urban development authorities. Now again, what special do I have here, and what special you guys can do in your answer is just gonna take 1 minute, but it's gonna look all the more impressive. I know you guys know a lot about it. That's gonna stick, lie within the political boundaries and all that. So in this case, what you're gonna do is right towards the end of your answer, I expect you guys to, okay, so just towards the end, what you guys can do is probably just make sure you draw the coastline of India, and here with a black pen just mention that this is going to be 12 nautical miles, and there you're going to write it's going to be a national resource, right? And something that's going to cross this boundary of 200 nautical miles is known as an international resource. So you've made your point way too clear to the teacher that yes, you know what are the contents that you can expect for in this answer. So just writing the points, segregating it, and not writing, putting on one thing over the other, mixing gulab jamun with pastry, with French fries, and a good slice of pizza is not going to help. It's like you eat it separately, even though you enjoy every dish, but yes, you're going to make sure that you address and respect every dish, right? But you're going to have it separately. So similarly, make sure that you respect every question and segregate the answer accordingly and give a pointer. The cherry mark is going to be for the pointers, for the block diagrams, for the flow chart and stuff like that. Now, indiscriminate, okay, we're going to talk about the next question is, its indiscriminate use of resources has led to numerous problems. Now, can you see the word is asking you to justify the statement? So, of course, okay, we've discussed this. Okay, explain the importance of conservation of resource. So, let's talk about conserving the resources. So, in this case, now you guys know how we're going to go around. The very first thing that you guys got to do is explain resources, right? So you're going to draw that block diagrams where you have institutions, where you have human beings interacting with the environment, and then you're going to put to use a resource. Resource should be accessible, it should be available, and everybody should be having an equitable, I would say, access to that resource. That's what gonna make it culturally acceptable. That's what gonna make a resource, the definition of a resource. So in this case, for example, we've been asked to explain the importance of conservation of resource. So you have to explain that, see, I'm giving a good explanation, and in an introduction I'm going to tell you that we've been using resources, we've been using resources to the indiscriminate use of resources has been done, or over exploitation of the resources has been done, that has led to a lot of social and environmental problems. Now, I want to stress on something, that's what is the social problem, and I want to talk and make sure that the teacher comes to know that I'm going to stress about the environmental problems. Now, since you've addressed the important problems, now you're going to start that, yes, how we are going to conserve, or what is the importance. So now you have to justify your answer by making a statement said by or marked by Gandhi ji that there is enough for everybody's need but not enough for everybody's greed. So now you're gonna tell that, okay, people walked out of their slumber for the very first time when it was vocally, or it was advocated by Club of Rome. Now, if I've written the answer in the form of a paragraph, it would be very difficult for my teacher to look for this word, that's Club of Rome. So in order to make her job easy going, what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to underline Club of Rome at international level in a systematic way, and then I'm going to underline the date. Because I'm going to talk about the conservation of resource, so I have to make sure that I focus on the important points, on the important stuff that I'm basically serving, and also I have to make sure that they come to know that yes, I am aware about a very, very, very important summit, that's Earth Summit that took place in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil 1992. So these are the basic two very important conservation measures that you have to mention in your answer to ensure the teacher gets to know them and she gives you marks accordingly, right? So writing a paragraph or providing information, okay, we are doing conservation, we are conserving water, we are working on skills like energy conservation and that. No guys, we are looking for some relevant information here, and the relevant information is that's given in your content in your book. That's they've talked about Club of Rome, then they've talked about the Earth Summit that came up with Agenda 21. Of course, if not Agenda 21, at least you can talk about these two. Let's get started to next question. It's okay, so this is all for today. Now I want to make an important announcement, that is all this relevant content, you guys can download the app right here. You guys can download the app. The link is going to be provided in the description box. So what benefits you have when you download the app? The very first point is you can ask doubts, you're gonna get free study material, and most importantly you're gonna get to watch all the important videos in which we're going to talk about most expected and most important questions that's going to come across you in the board exams. So thank you guys so much for joining. I hope to see you again in the upcoming videos. Till then, take care, stay healthy, bye bye.